Amen. When you want to know about a man, when you want to know about a man's character, look into the face of his wife. Bill McCartney had been a successful football coach at the University of Colorado at Boulder and was widely respected and famous for founding Promise Keepers. When he heard those words in a sermon, Bill McCartney squirmed. He turned and looked squarely into the face of his wife, and his heart sank. What he saw stunned him. Her face was sad and empty. Her eyes, once so bright and effervescent, had lost their sparkle. They were dull, downcast, and discouraged. And the house of cards he had pretended was built on rock crashed. Bill had put alcohol and his career first in his life. And that morning, God spoke to him and hit him squarely between the eyes. That morning he realized that no matter how much he succeeded in his career, it was nothing if he lost his home. And in his book, Sold Out, McCartney wrote, "It took 30 years to sink in. God doesn't appraise my worth by my one lost record. Victory in his eyes is the happy bounce in Lindy's step. Integrity in his eyes is the self-assured, contented smile on her face. God measures my character," he said. "God measures my character in the secure, affirmed countenances of my children and of my children's children. God weighs my righteousness not on the hours spent at work, but on the scales of my daily fellowship with him." Unquote. How to succeed, not just survive, is the theme this Lent and Easter. If you look in the bulletin, let's fill in the blanks. What does D and B stand for? Dream big. T and S? Tell stories. G and C? Connected. P and P? Pray and praise. And today, keep the commandments. 1 Timothy 6, 13 and 14, we read in the scripture lesson, "I charge you to keep the commandment without spot or blame." Love God, put God first, respect God, and observe a day of rest and worship. Honor your parents, love your neighbor, do not murder, commit adultery, steal, lie, covet. Treat others as you would like to be treated. Keep the commandments. What happens when the commandments are not kept is described in 2 Timothy 3, 1 to 5. You must understand this, that in the last days, distressing times will come. For people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, inhuman, implacable, slanderers, profligates, brutes, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding to the outward form of godliness but denying its power. Wow. Sounds like 1998 in America. And holding to the outward form of godliness, Bill McCartney outwardly was godly. After all, he had founded Promise Keepers. But inside, he was a different story. And you can tell what people are really like by looking at how they treat those closest to them. Jesus said in Matthew 23:25, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup. You clean the outside of the cup." But Jesus says, inside it is full of greed and self-indulgence. Outside you may look holy and pure, but inside you're dirty and rotten. We are living in interesting times. A turnabout from previous generations where rules, commandments, and laws were revered, feared, obeyed, kept. Now the pendulum has swung clear away from legalism all the way over to antinomianism, which means no rules and no laws. We have moved to the conviction that all rules are meant to be broken and anything goes. I am the only one who knows what's right for me. My opinion is the measure of all things. The rules are made up as we go along to suit the situation. Don't bother me with your standards. And what right do you have to tell me what to do? Sound familiar? A woman was caught in the act of adultery. In those days, she could be executed by throwing stones at her. And when they gathered to throw the stones, Jesus said, "Let the one among you who is without sin cast the first stone." One by one they dropped the stones and left, leaving Jesus and the woman there. And Jesus said to her, "I do not condemn you. Go and sin no more." In the Bible, the Gospel of John, that's the end of the story. I wonder what would happen today. Listen to a modern version by William Newell. Jesus says to the woman, "I do not condemn you. Go and sin no more." And she says, "What do you mean by sin?" Jesus says, "Well, I mean like adultery. It's wrong." She says, "So what gives you the right to judge me? How do you know it was wrong when you know nothing about the relationship?" And Jesus says, "But you weren't married to this man." "So," she says, "it was a loving and fulfilling relationship." But, says Jesus, "and before that there was Sam, and that loving relationship was fulfilling for 3 whole months. And then there was Joe. So what's with this sin bit, Mr. Morality?" And Jesus looked down and searched for a large stone. The ethical code today seems to be anything goes. Shame and embarrassment lay in getting caught. Do whatever you can get away with. Don't bother about doing your best. Do just enough to get by. A cynic said, "Work is what people want until they get a job." I thought that was very cynical until one of our ranchers told me, he says, "Hey, I've hired too many with that attitude. They wanted the job, not work." And how about the commonly accepted statement? It doesn't matter what a person does in his or her private life as long as he or she does the job. Really? How do you separate the two? How long can one succeed in presenting 2 fronts, 2 faces, one in private and one in public? How long before what's inside the cup seeps through to the outside and becomes visible to the world? And whatever happened to the notion that we set examples? In Mae Vinci's recent novel, Evening Class, a teacher, soon to be named principal, is a womanizer, a drinker, parties every night, and smokes in the corridors, the school corridors. And when accused of being a very bad example for the students, he snorts, "We're not here to be some example to them, we're here to teach them, to put some information into their heads. It's as simple as that," he says. Can teachers really separate their behavior, their lifestyle, from their teaching? By now, some of you are probably accusing me of being too negative. After all, I've been going on for quite a while here. But this sermon does not have to be negative. It depends on you. If you are not happy with the way you are living the life God gave you, then let your response to this sermon be not negative, but be very positive. A person whose cup is clean on the inside as well as on the outside is a person who keeps the commandments, is described in the scripture lesson this morning. 1 Timothy 6:11, pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, gentleness. I like Psalm 15, the first 2 verses. O Lord, who may abide in your tent? And who may live on your holy hill? Those who walk blamelessly and do what is right and speak the truth from their heart. Walk blamelessly, do what is right, speak the truth from your heart. A character test of how you are doing is to look into the faces of the special people in your life. And what do you see? Last week, Ellie and I received a letter from our son, Craig, who is going to be married in October. So with humility and gratitude, let me share the blessing of his letter. How blessed we were. The blessing of his letter with you. Dear Mom and Dad, I would like to thank you both for your love and encouragement through the years. You always made time for me and made me feel special. You attended every band concert and piano recital and made me feel like the best musician ever. You made family a top priority, and to this day make going home a joy rather than a chore. Your relationship is a model for me as I prepare for married life. Thanks for always putting your children first. I don't say it enough, but I love you both and cherish the times we spend together. Love, Craig. I covet for each of you the joy of receiving such a letter from the special people God has put in your life. I covet that for you. And when you do, praise the Lord. If you don't get such letters, if you don't, it's never too late to make some changes. Changes in your attitude, changes in your priorities, changes in your relationship with God, and changes in how you relate to the special people God has put in your life. It's never too late. And regardless of what our modern culture thinks of morality, regardless, there are commandments. to keep or to break. And actually, we don't break the commandments. We break ourselves on the commandments. Keep the commandment, urged the author of 1 Timothy. Obey my commandments, said Jesus. And God will help us successfully keep them. God will help. Proverbs 3:6. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path. He will make straight your path.